Sir, outside, right now. The command lands across the table like something thrown. Marcus Webb looks up from his menu slowly, the way a man does when he is choosing, very deliberately, not to move fast. Officer Travis Malone is standing 3 feet from his chair, badge on his chest, one hand already extended toward Marcus's shoulder, like the conversation is already over. "There a problem?" Marcus asks. "Outside," Malone says again. "Or I make it a problem." The restaurant is called Delia's. It is a Friday evening in downtown Columbus, Ohio. The dinner crowd is full, 12 tables occupied, a jazz trio playing near the back wall, a hostess who has already pulled out her phone and is not sure what to do with it. Marcus Webb has been coming to Delia's for 11 years. He and his wife Renata have a standing reservation on the second Friday of every month. Their coats are on the rack by the door. Their water glasses have been filled. Their menus are open. Marcus sets his menu down. "I haven't done anything," he says. "I'm having dinner with my wife." "Someone called it in," Malone says. "Said there was a man matching your description causing a disturbance. I sat down 5 minutes ago." Malone reaches down, grabs Marcus by the collar of his jacket, and pulls him out of his chair. The chair scrapes backward and tips. Renata Webb stands up. The table moves. A water glass falls and breaks on the hardwood floor, and nobody picks it up for a long time. Malone has Marcus by the arm now, moving him toward the door, and Marcus goes, hands visible, not resisting, not giving this man anything he can use, because he has spent 53 years on this earth, learning exactly how this goes, and he knows the difference between a battle and a war. He is counting. 1. No reasonable suspicion. 2. Physical removal without cause. 3. Failure to identify before initiating contact. 4. No warning before use of force. He is already thinking about the paperwork. He does not know yet that in 38 minutes, Travis Malone will be standing in the parking lot of Delia's restaurant, with his sergeant on one side of him, his lieutenant on the other side of him, and an expression on his face that a person only wears when they understand, fully and completely, that they have just ended something they can never get back. He has no idea. Because the man he just dragged out of a restaurant by the collar, the man he pulled away from his wife and his Friday dinner and his 11 years of second Friday of the month reservations, is the Honorable Marcus T. Webb, Circuit Court Judge, Franklin County, Ohio. The man who has signed every warrant Travis Malone has submitted to the bench for the last 6 years. Every single one. But this story doesn't start in a restaurant. It starts in a 2-story house on the east side of Columbus in 1971, where a man named Theodore Webb worked the overnight shift at a printing plant 5 nights a week, and came home at 6 in the morning smelling like ink and machine oil, and sat at the kitchen table and helped his son with his reading before the boy went to school. Theodore Webb had a 9th grade education and hands that were always slightly stained, no matter how hard he scrubbed them, and he told his son one thing about the law that Marcus never forgot. The law is either a weapon or a shield. You decide which one you're going to make it. Marcus Webb is 53 years old. He graduated from Ohio State with honors in 1993, completed his law degree at the University of Michigan in 1996, and spent the following 8 years as a public defender in Franklin County. Not because it was the easiest path, which it was not, but because he wanted to stand inside the system at its most broken point and understand it from the inside out. He moved to the prosecutor's office in 2004, tried 62 cases to verdict, won 58 of them, and was appointed to the Franklin County Circuit Court bench in 2011 by a governor who told him during the selection interview that he was the most prepared candidate he had ever seen. He has served on that bench for 13 years. He is known in the courthouse for three things: absolute procedural rigor, a willingness to rule against the prosecution when the evidence doesn't support the charge, and a framed photograph on his desk taken the day he was sworn in of a man with ink-stained hands and the proudest smile Marcus has ever seen. Theodore Webb died in 2009. He never saw his son put on the robe. But he saw what his son was becoming, and that, Marcus has said in interviews twice, was enough. Travis Malone is 34 years old and has been with the Columbus Police Department for 9 years. He has 2 citations for bravery: a house fire, a domestic violence intervention that required physical restraint of an armed individual, and his annual evaluations describe him as decisive and confident. His personnel file also contains 7 complaints: excessive force, unlawful detention, racial profiling. 3 different complainants named the same behavior: stopped without reason, handled without cause, dismissed when they tried to report it. The Complaint Review Board closed 6 of the 7 without action. The 7th was still open, technically, though nothing had moved in 14 months. The detective assigned to that review and Malone played on the same rec league softball team every Thursday. These things happen inside systems that are not designed to see themselves clearly. At Delia's restaurant, Travis Malone has Marcus Webb standing on the sidewalk in the November cold, without his coat, his wife's voice audible through the glass door behind him, and Malone's hand still on his arm like the conversation has been decided. "You want to tell me what this is really about?" Marcus says. His voice is level. His breath makes small clouds in the cold air. He is not moving toward the door. He is not moving at all. "I told you." "Someone called?" "No one called," Marcus says. "I've been here 5 minutes, and I've been seated the entire time." He looks at Malone steadily. "You saw me walk in. That's what happened." Malone's jaw tightens. "Watch yourself." "I am watching myself," Marcus says. "I'm watching very carefully. I'd encourage you to do the same." Inside, Renata Webb has already made 2 calls. She is a woman who spent 20 years as a federal civil rights investigator before starting her own advocacy practice. And she does not use the word panic in any professional context. The first call is to Marcus's clerk, a young man named Daniel Ash, who picks up on the second ring and who, within 4 minutes, has pulled Travis Malone's badge number from the department's public directory and begun building a timeline. The second call is to a woman named Patricia Osai, who is the deputy director of the Ohio Criminal Justice Commission and who answers her personal cell phone on a Friday evening because Renata Webb is one of the 12 people whose calls she always picks up. 26 minutes. Malone radios for a patrol car. He is writing this up as disorderly conduct, obstruction, failure to comply. He is already composing the report in his head, the way men do when they have done this before, and it has always worked out. The charges will not stick. They never fully stick, but the processing will take hours. The night will be ruined, and the message will be sent. He has sent this message before. He knows how it lands. He does not know that Daniel Ashe has just pulled the last 47 warrants Malone submitted to the Franklin County Circuit Court and sorted them by signatory. He does not know what Daniel found. He does not know that Renata Webb is standing at the window of Delia's watching her husband stand in the cold with his arms at his sides, and that she is the calmest she has been all evening, because she knows exactly what is coming, and she has been waiting a long time for a moment this clean. The patrol car arrives. 2 officers, both younger than Malone. One of them a woman named Castillo, who has been on the force for 3 years and who clocks the situation in about 8 seconds and goes very still. The other, a man named Pruis, starts toward Marcus with handcuffs already unclipped from his belt. "That won't be necessary," Marcus says. "Sir, Officer Pruis." Marcus looks at him directly. "I'd like you to radio your sergeant before you take another step. I'd like you to do that right now." Pruis stops. Something in the voice. Something that does not match the scenario Malone radioed in. Pruis looks at Malone. Malone gives him a small, sharp nod. "Go ahead. Cuff him." And Pruis looks back at Marcus Webb, standing in the cold in a dinner jacket, with his hands visible and his breathing completely even, and does not move. "Radio your sergeant," Marcus says again, quietly. Castillo has already keyed her radio. 19 minutes. Sergeant Diane Wills arrives in 11. She is 51 years old and has worked in this precinct for 22 years, and when she pulls up to Delia's and sees the scene, a black man in a dinner jacket standing on a sidewalk, 2 patrol officers frozen at 10 feet, Travis Malone with his hands on his hips, looking increasingly like a man who has heard something he does not want to have heard. She parks the car and sits in it for exactly 4 seconds before getting out. "What have we got, Malone? Disorderly? Obstruction? Got a call? Name?" Wills asks, looking at Marcus. Marcus Webb. She looks at him. She looks at his jacket. She looks at his face. Something moves behind her eyes. "Judge Webb," she says. It is not a question. The parking lot goes quiet in a way that is different from the quiet it was before. Travis Malone turns his head. Sergeant Wills is already on her radio, calling the lieutenant, and her voice has the particular flatness of someone who is simultaneously managing a situation and constructing a very precise record of it for later. "I need Lieutenant Farrow at Delia's on 5th. Now she lowers the radio. She looks at Malone. She looks at Marcus. She says to Marcus, "Judge, I apologize for—" "Don't apologize yet," Marcus says. "There's work to do first." The lieutenant arrives in 7 minutes. His name is Gerald Farrow, and he has been in this department for 29 years, which means he has seen a number of things. But the expression on his face when he steps out of his car and takes in what is assembled in this parking lot is one that suggests this particular configuration is new. He looks at Marcus Webb. He looks at Malone. He looks at Sergeant Wills. He says, "Inside. All of us." In the private dining room at the back of Delia's, the one the manager has opened without being asked. Because he is a man who reads situations, Marcus Webb sits across from Lieutenant Farrow and speaks for 11 minutes without interruption. He does not raise his voice. He does not speak about himself. He speaks about the 7 complaints in Travis Malone's file. He speaks about the review board's closure rate for excessive force complaints in this precinct. 89% closed without action, which he knows because he has signed disclosure orders in 3 separate civil suits involving this department in the past 4 years. He speaks about what it costs a person, any person, not him specifically, to be removed from a restaurant by force on a Friday evening in front of their spouse and 12 witnesses, without cause and without recourse, simply because of what they look like walking through a door. He speaks about his father. He speaks about ink-stained hands. He does not cry. His voice does not break. He says, "At the end, I want to be very clear about something. I am not here because I am a judge. I am standing here talking to you because I happen to be a judge." The man who was grabbed in that dining room, that man deserved this conversation, whether he was a judge or a postal worker or a teenager with a backpack. My title got me this room. His dignity should have been enough. Farrow looks at the table. His dignity should have been enough, Marcus says again. Write that down. Travis Malone was placed on administrative leave that night pending a formal internal affairs review. The review, for once, did not stay internal. Renata Webb's call to Patricia Ossai had already set something in motion at the Ohio Criminal Justice Commission, and within 72 hours, a state-level review of complaint closure patterns in the precinct was announced. The softball league detective was recused from the Malone file. An outside investigator was appointed. The investigation took 6 months. It confirmed what 3 complainants had said and what 6 closed files had quietly buried: a pattern of racially motivated stops and disproportionate force. Malone was terminated. The review board director resigned. 2 supervisors were reassigned. The precinct was placed under a monitoring agreement with the commission for 2 years. Malone's case went to the Franklin County Civil Court. 3 of the 7 original complainants joined as co-plaintiffs. The city settled for $1.4 million. Malone was permanently barred from law enforcement in Ohio. His attorney made a statement. Malone did not. Marcus Webb recused himself from every case involving the Columbus PD for the duration of the investigation and the subsequent monitoring period. He did not recuse himself from his duties, his docket, or his Friday evenings at Delia's. He and Renata returned the following second Friday of the month. The manager had their coats on the rack before they walked in. Officer Castillo, the one who went still in the parking lot and radioed the sergeant without being told twice, wrote a 4-page reflection that she submitted voluntarily to the commission's review. She described what she saw, in sequence, from the moment she arrived to the moment the lieutenant walked in. She named what she should have done faster. She asked to be part of the de-escalation training that the monitoring agreement required. She was. She is now a trainer. She is not a hero in this story. She is a person who chose, at a specific moment, to be more honest than was comfortable. That is not the same thing, and she would be the first to tell you so. The man at the table next to Marcus and Renata, the one who heard Malone's voice and looked at his phone and looked back at his food and did not look up again, left Delia's without saying anything to anyone. He left a 40% tip. He came back the following Friday and sat at the same table and ordered the same thing, and when the jazz trio started playing, he sat for a long time listening in a way that felt like something unfinished. Nobody knows what he did with that feeling. He has to live with whatever he decided. Theodore Webb's photograph still sits on Marcus's desk. The ink-stained hands, the swollen with pride smile, the son in his robe who looks just like him in the eyes. Marcus has looked at it every morning for 13 years. On the morning after the incident at Delia's, he looked at it for a little longer than usual. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He had a full docket. He went to work. Outside the courthouse windows, the city moved the way cities do. Traffic, voices, the long ordinary business of people trying to live decently inside systems that were not built with them in mind. The law sat on Marcus Webb's desk in stacks, cases, briefs, motions, questions that had no clean answers. He picked up the first file. The work doesn't stop because one story ends. It never has. Someone has to be watching. If this story reached something in you, if you recognized something in that parking lot, or in that dining room, or in the silence of a man who looked away and kept eating, share it. Stories like Marcus Webb's don't reach people by accident. They reach people because someone decided they mattered. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been in a room where something wrong was happening and had to decide whether to say something? What did that cost you, and what would it have cost you to stay silent? Subscribe, because the record needs building, and we build it together. Every story we keep is one they can't erase.